religious teachings also push us towards those end as well. But when it comes to the practical application, there is a lingering doubt, because when we have this art of letting go, there is certain things still remaining in the heart. That is the problem. I will let go. For example, if a person is being very short tempered with me, and whether be it at work or at home or among even friends, you person is short tempered. Now the bigger question comes is, should I let go? If you go and ask for a raise, for example, from your boss, and the boss denies that raise, should you let go? Do you see something that is not right according to you that's happening? Should you confront it, or should you let go? As a parent, if you have to, for example, have this unpleasant task of disciplining your child, what should I do? Keep it or let go? Or the more importantly, if you have a situation that you need to discuss with your partner, with your spouse, that can be a little tricky in terms of feedback. And so, what should I do? Again, these things are confronting us on a daily basis. And there is a good reason people are perplexed. How should I proceed on these? We will discuss those few ideas in the from the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam and from the other scriptures and the holy people that have given us teachings from down the era. And we can see the context can be different. We can see the place can be different. We can see the problem can be different. But the broad outlook and the solutions have not changed for millennia, for thousands of years. So first, what we can start off is the story of Arjuna from the Bhagavad Gita. That is the first story I would like to pick up today. Before I pick up the story, I welcome Sakala Subhag and Hitesh. Thank you for joining. This story of Arjuna starts with the fact that the brothers, the five brothers, the righteous Pandava brothers, were usurped of their kingdom by unlawful means. Through trickery and through chicanery, they lost their kingdom because the cousins who were quite envious of them, they knew that they couldn't win the kingdom in a fair war. Now, before we go ahead, the Pandavas whose brother was Pandu and the Kauravas whose father was Dhritarashtra, and Pandava's father was Pandu. They were both brothers. When Pandu and Dhritarashtra was born blind, and so he was ineligible to run the kingdom, even though he was elder to Pandu. Pandu being having the vision, he said, "Okay, I'll run the kingdom." But because of some events, Pandu had to leave his body early, and there was no person except Dhritarashtra who could actually become the king. And in spite of his blindness, he was made the king. He had 100 sons, and the Pandavas were five brothers, sons of Pandu. Because Dhritarashtra, who was the king, was the uncle of Pandavas, he realized that at that point of time, the king had this deep obligation of making sure that his kingdom is passed to a person who is very capable and fit of ruling this kingdom. Because please understand, in those days, the king was the judge, jury, and executioner. You didn't have to worry about pesky judiciary trying to cut down your bills, and the Congress or the Senate trying to curb your uh, power. But in those days, king was the judge, jury, and executioner. While it seems a luxury. But please understand, you had to be really doing the three jobs at the same time, and it was practically impossible. And you had to do it perfectly, because if you by chance did mistakes, then you would be liable to be going to hell. So right now the power is spread across, so there is no accountability as well. You are able to see how, yeah, right now the government shutdown, you can see how the accountability is lost and people are suffering. But in those days, king was like, he was the judge, jury, and executioner. So then Dhritarashtra, he said, though he was leaning always towards his 100 sons, and the eldest of that son was Duryodhana, he always was very partial, very fond of his own son compared to the sons of his brothers. But then he realized, nah, the problem is that if I make my son the king, people will rebel. People will be very unhappy. Besides, of these two, the son of my younger brother, or the eldest son of my younger brother, is very capable of ruling the kingdom. So much against it, he divided both the kingdoms, and he gave a portion of the kingdom to Pandavas, whose eldest brother was Yudhishthir, and the other portion he gave it to the Kauravas, who were his own sons. There also, he made sure that the most prosperous, most fertile, most likely for success would be given to his own sons. And then the brothers, or his brother's son, got barely any land. In any case, they built a beautiful kingdom, the Pandavas, by mercy of Krishna. But then when the Kauravas saw that, their kingdom was much more opulent and thriving than their own kingdom, they got jealous, and so they usurped their kingdom. Then this put in some stipulated conditions, like you have to do certain things to win your kingdom back or get your kingdom back. And the five brothers did fulfill those conditions. And when they came back to claim their kingdom, the Duryodhana and his brothers, and they flatly refused to give their kingdom back to Pandavas. Now, this was the scene where the war was set. The On one side, we had Arjuna with his five brothers and his own relatives and his own divisions of army. On the other side was Duryodhana with 11 divisions of army, and being the current ruler in power. And the battlefield was set. The Bhagavad Gita actually starts at that very momentous point where both the armies are ready to fight on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And it was not like we have unmanned aerial drones flying and just dropping bombs all over the place and destruction, whereas the person causing the destruction is sitting comfortably in an air-conditioned room and having a monitor in the front. The kings would lead by example. So that whole battlefield, if you can imagine, 3.9 or almost 4 million soldiers with horses and chariots and elephants and all the weapons and everything was assembled ready to fight. It was the mega show on the planet. Um, Arjuna, he says to Krishna, I really want to see who have come here to fight, because for 12 long years, including the 13th year, the brothers were bereft of the kingdoms. They were like literally living in forests, from one forest to another, devoid of any royal opulence. They suffered enough, and now the time was come. Arjuna and the five brothers, they were absolutely waiting for the chance to regain their kingdom back. Please understand that if you were a king in those days, and if you couldn't get your kingdom back, you couldn't apply to Meta, Facebook, federal government, or do something. It was not possible. You had to have some kingdom. You had to have at least five villages. You have to have some piece of land that you control, you protect, and then whatever taxes you could collect from protecting that particular village or a piece of land was what you could actually live off of. There was nothing other than to do, or you can go and beg. And Arjuna, He said to Krishna, let me fight. I want to see these people who have come to fight, and I really am excited to fight. And when Krishna takes Arjuna onto the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the reality sinks in. And I'll tell you, it's like a movie, one of the movies where there's a powerful judge who's very, very like popular and strict and the very epitome of justice. And then he is presiding over multiple cases, and he asks for the police or the defense to present the next case and the next witness, and he sees that the person accused is his own son, and he had no clue about it till actually that he saw that his son standing ready to be accused of crime. Now you can only imagine the emotions that will go through the father's mind, who's also a judge at the same time. It hits hard. It will really hit hard. You don't know what to do. If it's an ordinary judge, he will say, "I'm just taking time off, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow. I can't do this today." It was exactly Arjuna's situation. He saw that now, when the time actually had come to fight, he saw that his own relatives, who he had been very intimately associated, his grandfather, his teachers, were all arraigned to fight. And it was not like a fight on whatever is called Xbox, that you fight, somebody wins, somebody loses, you go home. I mean, you have a pizza and some nice fruit juice and go home. No, it was a fight on to death. Either you kill your own family members to regain your kingdom, or you will be killed by them. There was no two way around it. Now, this is the dilemma. Should Arjuna let it go, or should Arjuna fight? Is the first case of how we have to answer the situation. And the best portion is that Arjuna says to Krishna, Krishna, I don't know what to make of this. I have no solution that readily comes to my mind. I'm thoroughly depressed and overcome by weakness for my family. Please instruct me. Then Krishna actually instructs Arjuna on the Bhagavad Gita for 18 chapters. And Arjuna says, and Arjuna's misperceptions about his duty are completely destroyed. And at the end of 18th chapter, he says that I will fight. In the beginning of the first chapter, he says, it's better for me to live by begging than to actually take the lives of these great souls and enjoy the kingdom. So this is a case of Arjuna wanting to let go, but Krishna saying that you should stand and fight. Now, that is story number one. Let's do story number two. And we will contrast story number one and story number two as we go along. Just the prologue of story number one is that the kingdom was won by Arjuna, and they ruled the kingdom for 36 years. They passed on the kingdom as much as they got the kingdom. They passed the kingdom to their grandchild or the grandson of Arjun, whose name was Parikshit Maharaj. Now, Parikshit was perfectly ruling the kingdom. He was having all the good qualities of his grandfathers, and he was perfectly ruling his kingdom. He would make sure that the kings in those days, not in those days, it's applicable at all times. The king's primary duty is to protect the citizens wherever they are. And when you say citizens, it's both humans and non-humans who are living in the kingdom get an equal right to be protected by the king. Once he went to the forest for just on an excursion. He somehow got lost. And please understand that there were no visitor center with some refreshing beverages in the forest those days. Only things you could find in the forest that would be able to afford you some food and drink was the sages' hermitages. The sages would leave the main stream civilization. They would go to the forest and they would set up their own small huts or ashrams or small dwelling places so that they could practice their austerities and meditations in a very uninterrupted fashion. So when King Parikshit, who was lost, tired, hungry and thirsty, he went to the sage uh, whose name was Shamik. He went to the sage, hoping that he would receive some hospitality. The sage would offer him some food, some drink to mitigate his present rather uncomfortable situation of hunger and thirst. But the sage, as I mentioned earlier, the sages would, you know, not be situated in urban areas, but would go so that they can practice austerities and meditation and other things in a very uninterrupted fashion. So this sage Shamik was doing exactly that. He was sitting in a lotus posture. He was closing his eyes, and he seemed to be deeply absorbed in a trance, in a meditational trance. So much so that it seems that he seemed to be completely oblivious to this world. So when Parikshit Maharaj went to that sage and he bowed down, he said, "My name is Parikshit and I have come to receive your hospitality. I'm hungry and thirsty. Please give me something." But the sage did not respond. He was so deeply absorbed in his meditation, he was oblivious, as I mentioned, to the external circumstances. Now, Maharaj Parikshit was hungry and thirsty, and to add salt to his wounds, when this particular sage even refused to even acknowledge him, forget, give him something, he became really upset. He said, "This is the coldest reception I have got from anybody." So he saw there was a dead snake lying just beside in the vicinity of sage. And he said, "Just because I got this kind of cold reception from this sage and who ignored me, let me repay back in kind." So he picks up that particular dead snake with the end of his bow, and then he puts it around the sage's neck and he leaves. The sage was not disturbed, but his son, who was a young boy, he got to know of this minor insult to his father. He became furious. He was playing with his friends nearby. He became furious. In fact, in those days, the priestly class were above the royal class. Even they were above the kings because they had the power to curse. The kings would be not afraid of anything. They would be ready to challenge human, non-human to the fight. And they were that spirit of fighting was inherent, and they were waiting for an opportunity or hoping to have some war, and they could exhibit their chivalry and power and so on and so forth. But the one thing they would be afraid of is sages, the priestly class, and they could curse them. They could curse them to deprive of their health, of their wealth and power, and so on and so forth. So this boy, Brahmana boy, this boy, he said, "Who's this king who dared to insult my father?" This is the words he uses. A dog, pardon, in those days, the dog was supposed to be not partaking the meals on the same level as the dog owner, but that's what he uses the word, saying, "How come this dog who is supposed to be guarding outside dares to come up to the master to eat food?" And he says, "Look at me, I'm going to curse this particular king." And he utters the curse that may this king die in 7 days. He'll be killed by a snake bird because he put a snake around the neck of my father. May a creature which is having the characteristics of a snake and a bird kill him in 7 days. Now, it is mentioned that Parikshit was very capable of countering the curse. He could have just said, "Hey, boy, your curse will have no effect on me. I curse you, do not curse me. Otherwise, I'll curse you," kind of situation. And things would have worked. He was that powerful. King was equally powerful. Now the boy goes back and he indeed sees that his father has been having a dead neck, and he starts wailing loudly. And then his father's trance of meditation breaks and he asks, "What happened? Why are you crying?" And the boy just explains everything on how, this king came, he put a dead snake around his neck, and now I've cursed that king to die in 7 days. The father, modern fathers would have been, "Good child, you have avenged the insult on the dynasty. Good." No, that was not said by the sage. The sage was, "Oh boy, why did you curse the king? Because for a small mistake that he committed, you cursed him to die, and you have put in a huge punishment." And he prays to Krishna, "May you forgive this boy for his impetuous and immature act." Now, this is the story happened this side. Now, Parikshit Maharaj, he put the dead snake on the sage and he was going back. While he went back, fear, anxiety, and discomfort began to gnaw at him. He was like, "Did I do the right thing? Maybe the sage was truly in a trance and he was oblivious to this world. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. It's a mistake." And God doesn't take too kindly to those who harass his devotees. Whatever good comes, whatever bad or whatever negative thing comes out of it, let it come soon, so that may it destroy this tendency to repeat this ever again. I was thinking I'm a king, and I'm thinking this person is an ordinary sage. How dare he didn't give me? May that may that kingly nature of mine be destroyed. And that was his thinking. And when he heard the messengers came, they said, "Look, you've been cursed to die in 7 days. The son of the sage whom you insulted actually cast a curse on you." Question number two, letting it go. Should Parikshit let it go, or should she counter curse? Right? So then the answer is, Maharaj Parikshit actually said, "I'm so glad this happened. I'm glad that, Krishna is giving a lesson, that it has happened, and I openly welcome it." Now you can see these contrasting natures of letting go versus standing your ground is very subtle and very nuanced, and oftentimes not easily visible. I will stop here for some questions, but not before I welcome Professor Easley and whoever else has joined.
Go ahead, Vicky.
Krishna, Srivastava Pandit, thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yes,
Yes, go ahead, Vicky.
Thank you. We all had the pleasure to meet Lisa 2 weeks back, but I especially wanted to introduce Lisa to Srivas, our teacher today, and Srivas to Lisa. Lisa is a professor of social services at the University of Hayward, and she especially cleared her schedule on Monday evenings because she said, "I want to strengthen my spiritual practice." And she's really serious about Bhakti community. So wanted to give you both a chance to meet.
Please welcome. Which one? What's the name you said? Lisa?
Lisa.
Lisa?
Yes.
Lisa Jacobs. There we go. Now I can see. Lisa,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you took time out of your busy schedule to join. I am thrilled. We are all thrilled to have you on this community, and I'm so grateful that you could make it, and our heartiest welcome.
Yes, I'm happy to be here too. And as Vicky said, I definitely made sure that this time is dedicated for me to have intentions of learning and growing and um strengthening my spirituality. for mind, body, and soul purposes. So
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome. Glad to have you. So yeah, go ahead. Any questions, comments, reflections? If you have, please unmute and share or type in chat box.
All right.
Anything that you heard which might have resonated, reflection is always good.
I do.
Go ahead.
I mean, as stories go, and there's a lesson learned. Regardless of if we look back at it and say that we wish we could have done it differently, that it is an opportunity to actually learn something about yourself and from others too, and perhaps things from the world as well, in regards to your perception may be your reality, just as you have to respect that somebody else's perception may be their reality too, and how you choose to respond in that moment, or if you think about it later, how do you go back and have a conversation about it, or either know the next time the opportunity come, you could respond differently, hopefully, so, but it takes practice as a process in changing, so.
Absolutely. It was brilliantly said. All right. Any other points?
Go ahead, Vicky.
Thank you. I was reflecting today on how we always get a special treat when the season transitions to autumn to hear from you. And I was also thinking in regards to the topic that it's really necessary for me. And I think sometimes I feel an inability to let go because it's almost like I've become addicted to the burden that if I let it go, then it means that I'm not able to handle it. Um, and I was wondering, when we're trying to practice letting go, how do we know that it's not because we couldn't tolerate it? And how do we strike the right balance between tolerance, patience, and letting go of what no longer serves us?
It's beautiful. I just wanted to add one thing that in our teachings, we are told that one should be, humbler than a blade of grass and tolerant than a tree. And we've been mentioning that because it's not easy by any stretch of imagination. But the point I wanted to add here was that the trees, we talk of trees tolerant on how um, they give shade, for example, during the scorching summers. If you go stand under a tree, it's very soothing and they take the heat of the sun and they give you shade. But as Vicky mentioned, we are transitioning to autumn, and look at the tolerance of the tree that it loses all its cover when it needs the most in winter. It's still like there's not a single leaf that can protect it from the cold. It's like you're losing your jacket as the winter is approaching, kind of situation. But that is the nature of the tree that we can take great inspiration from. For those, Lisa, especially if you are tuned to spirituality, it is not that we get some extremely esoteric concepts revealed by only few through some sudden bursts of clarity. Every day, a walk in the nature actually can teach us so many lessons on, because the nature is created by God. He can speak through nature on what lessons we can learn. So there is that beauty of spirituality as well. Just wanted to point that out. Um, And that's amazing. Thank you. Thank you. And one last point I wanted to add on the autumn thing is just like we can think, the tree might think, oh my God, I have lost everything, all my leaves now. But then fear not, when the spring rolls around, then you get back all your leaves. So in the same way, we have the second chances in life. We have, God has said that, this is not the only life. Because in Gita, uh, Krishna mentions that we have taken on many bodies, and just like a tree can completely be desolate and almost dead in the winter because of having no greenery, no nothing, but it just gets on new set of leaves. Krishna is saying that the soul's journey in this world is filled with many opportunities and chances. And the best part, or the thing that can help the most, is if one gets even a hint of spirituality, then one is able to take advantage of it, knowing that whatever spiritual progress I have made in this life is something that is that is mine to keep forever. Everything else can be lost by the passage of time, but not my spiritual practices, not my spiritual knowledge, not my spiritual advancement. That is something I can hold on to forever. So that second chances also come as part of autumn. Beautiful. All right. We'll go back to those two stories and then get into a little bit deeper on why Arjuna was asked to fight, whereas Parikshit Maharaj did let go, actually. And the reason was this: when Arjuna approached Krishna for answers on his dilemma whether to fight or not to fight, Krishna revealed the intention that this world needs some sort of um, there is a burden on this earth that needs to be reduced, and this battle of Kurukshetra is exactly for that particular purpose. And when Arjuna knows of the fact that his fighting is not meant for his own purpose, but for a higher purpose, then he readily agrees to fight. He changes his mind and he says, I want to fight. Because the purpose of action, the cause was a higher cause, not based on my own cause. Arjuna's initial thought process was that, what do I get for what I do, and how can it benefit me alone? But when you place your life um, as an offering for helping others. So, for example, this community was created with that very sole purpose, for kind of helping others. Then what happens is that the action or the cause of action moves from being for a selfish intent to a rather more higher cause. And in that sense, action actually is valuable, because Arjuna fighting for Lord's satisfaction had value. And for Parikshit, this was the thing that happened. So let me tell the prologue of the story for Parikshit. He was cursed to die in 7 days. This time he chose not to fight, but he said, I welcome this with open arms. And he had a son whose name was Janamejaya. He made him the king. He retired from the kingly duties, and he sat on the bank of river Ganges and fasting on to death. Now, this particular event was caught across the universe, just like the story going viral or video going viral. This piece of news was viral in the whole universe. And a great list of sages came from different planets. And Parikshit Maharaj was hurting, in the sense like he was about to die. So when all the sages came, Parikshit Maharaj he asked two specific questions. The first question was, what is the duty of a man, or what is the highest duty of a human being, if you get a human body? And the second question he asked is, what is the duty of a man specifically who's about to die? Because that was his urgent need. I need to leave in 7 days. What should I do? And the long story short, many sages come. Along with amongst those sages is a very beautiful young ascetic named Shuka. And he comes all of 16 years old, and he speaks this great message of God called Bhagavatam. The narrations that are mentioned by Shuka are so extremely enchanting, so beautiful, and so relatable to the ears, that for 7 days continuously Maharaj Parikshit he hears. You might say, that's good, that's great actually. But then here is the catch. He heard for 7 days without eating or without drinking, straight. Not only that, he didn't even sleep. Neither the speaker slept nor the listener slept. For 7 straight days and nights, he was reciting these glorious pastimes of the Lord. And lest you think that by that end of 7 days, he must be completely starving to death. No, he just says just prior, these narrations are so nectarian that I don't even feel hunger, I don't even feel thirst. Please keep on repeating the glorious. So you can see how by fighting or by letting go, and he achieved perfection, Parikshit. The fighting or letting go, God was in the center to satisfy a higher cause, to satisfy the Lord. They did act like that and they achieved success. So oftentimes to let go or to fight is a subtle, nuanced question. I believe that a higher guide who is in spiritual realm can help clear. So it behooves, like Arjuna was in confusion and he took shelter of his guru Krishna. So always better to have a mentor, spiritual mentor, who can guide you on that path, who can say whether to fight or whether to not fight. Because and I remember my own spiritual master saying that once. He said, Don't take up that job because that is not appropriate for you." And then now later he said, you have to do something else to keep going. So you can see how instructions truly help us when there is a higher purpose. Otherwise, what happens is there is a tremendous amount of frustration in this world, because the world is such that if you feel exploited, you feel helpless, and but there is a deep desire to enjoy this world. And oftentimes that desire can take to paths and routes that can actually complicate rather than help us get out this frustration that we started to reduce with. So that is the quite important point that we have to. I'll have one more story, but then more than that, I can take questions, comments, concerns, reflections.
I've
Previously,
just shared
go
so, so,
ahead.
Sakala, sorry, was there somebody spoke? Who was it?
I didn't start, but I have a reflection.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I really liked, I never thought about, I always heard the trees giving us shade and during summer months, but I never heard that. And I was really touched and that, that they also actually shed their leaves to give us the sunlight during the winters. And I was thinking that how everything is designed by the nature to give us comfort or to give us a comfortable life where we can live comfortably. So there has to be a higher purpose for all that we have been given all these facilities. And if we don't find that purpose and just keep exploiting all the comforts and just make it more and more comfortable, now cut the trees and make this and that and out of it, I was just thinking that we're just so wrongly using those facilities which we have been provided. So I just want to thank you for bringing that point. I never thought of that before.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Premanishta.
Thank you. And Sakala Subhaga just shared a reflection. Thank you for sharing two wonderful and captivating narratives that beautifully illustrate the art of letting go. The insights and lessons conveyed are truly valuable in deepening one's understanding of this important principle.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. Before I continue, I also would like to welcome Shama Sundari. Thank you for joining. All right. One last point, the consequences of not letting go based on one's own motivations. There was the Arjuna who was the protagonist of Gita. He had a grandfather named Bhishma. Now, Bhishma, it's a long story, but again, he took a vow to never marry throughout his life, remain a celibate, not from the monk celibacy perspective, but there is a long story. If I get an opportunity, I'll tell. But it was for a higher cause that he took a vow of celibacy. And also, he said that I will never accept ruling this particular kingdom of Hastinapur because, again, a part of that vow that he gave. It's a long story and we don't have much time, so I will not give that story. So when when time came, but then there was there was an incident where we had where he had to find some suitable matches to the two kings. So, for example, um, so his mother was Satyavati, and then she gave birth to two sons who are stepbrothers of Bhishma. He had to find suitable grooms. So what happened was you had a certain, because of the marital spirit prevalent in those days, you could actually have a certain provision by which you can engage some few maidens to kind of come with you and get married to your brother. And that's what he exactly did. And there were three sisters that he proposed, and he took them along. He took them along with him to get them married to his stepbrothers, because the whole idea is that when you are a king, you might think it's easy, but it's not. If when you are a king, you have to make sure that you marry, then you have children or sons, so that you can. It was a heavy responsibility, trust me. If just to keep a humorous note, if you know what exactly entails being the king or the ruler of the land, the Democrats would say, please vote for Republican Party because they are much better than me. And the Republicans will say, please vote for Democrats, they are much better than me. Because you have no idea of the ramifications that deal with when you be a king or a president without knowing the actual actual no actual responsibility. So now he took these three girls to his kingdom back with the purpose of getting married to his stepbrothers. He had obviously taken a vow of celibacy and he couldn't accept any wife. One of the girls, she said, like, you shouldn't have brought me with you. And Bhishma asked, why? Because I already gave my heart to another man. And now I cannot accept your brother as my husband. But now that you have taken me by force to get married to your brother, my lover will not accept me, because they in those days they were very high in terms of all this prestige and everything, so on and so forth, and which was right in those days. Then then he said, what is the solution? He said, now because you took me by force, you should marry me. And Bhishma said, no, I cannot marry you because I have taken a vow of celibacy. And then she gets really distraught. Her whole life will be fixed on how can I destroy Bhishma? What can I do to kill this person? And she couldn't let go. She couldn't let go of the fact that I was spurned by Bhishma, who actually should have given me shelter. He couldn't let go. and then she performs severe austerities, and then she gets a boon from Lord Shiva that in the next life she becomes a person of transgender or a neutral gender to kill Bhishma. Now we can see how, and Bhishma was a great devotee of the Lord. So you can see how if you cannot let go, then birth after birth, that desire will be there to be fulfilled, because we are a summation of our desires. We are a summation of all our hankerings, and we are a summation of our latent desire would be fine. Yeah, latent hankerings to enjoy this world. God says, I will give you more and more lives so that you can actually go ahead and enjoy or, suffer the consequences of your actions. So letting go on account of a higher purpose is the best thing to do, because then for sake of a higher purpose, I let this go. But to not let go for a lower purpose, which is for myself, then you will have to enjoy or you have to suffer the consequences of not letting go as well. So that is the whole purpose behind it. The art of letting go as the autumn rolls would be the fact that we let go for a higher purpose, but we don't let go for a higher purpose, but we let go for a lower purpose if it is negative. For example, if you are serving in a community, for example, you're serving and your intentions are good and you've been severely criticized by someone, you let go because maybe that person doesn't know you or doesn't know your intention, and you want to continue serving that purpose, and you will let go. But if it is something that that person is blaspheming or criticizing others or disrupting the mood, then you don't let go. You actually challenge. But for your own personal uh, affront or insult or something like that, you overcome your tiny ego and let it go. That's fine. You just said to me, I don't mind so much. So having that position of accepting insult and letting go for personal self, but not letting go for a higher self, or vice versa, that can give the greatest happiness. And that's the broad guideline on which we live. By and large, that would actually help us propel. That by and large, that would help us, move forward in life. Because one thing is, when you take shelter of God, whatever happens, good or bad, is by His will. And when something bad happens, there is something good coming out of it. Because Parikshit Maharaj, he could have said, "What is this God? I just put a snake around the sage's neck. He punished me by giving me death." But the fact is that door opened up to his beautiful listening to the narrations of Bhagavatam. Had this situation and crisis not would have come about, you would be like, yeah, I have to listen to God, but I have certain duties as well. So yeah, I'll do this. But no, now it was completely focused. So something beautiful came out of um, something ghastly, something very horrible. So under God's guidance, good and bad actually can work in a harmonious in a harmonious way to benefit the soul. But good and bad for myself can be a little troublesome, because what I think is good can be bad, and so on and so forth. More questions, comments, concerns?
Go ahead, Lisa.
Yeah, I was every now and then I kind of make a little note of something that I've felt like I've heard, and just think about letting go. As you say, we do tend to, depending on who it was that hurt us, we tend to want to hold on to it more so. And I was just thinking about something in my life that I haven't been able to fully let go of, because you have memories and triggers and you have things like that. And but that's where I am today. It's like I want to really be able to just, let it go. Because when I think about, I'm looking now and I'm like, I have less time, as we say, we may get 70 or 80 years. So it's like I'm at 60 almost, and it's like I have less time in my life in this living life here right now than I had years back. So I look at all those years that I've allowed that thing to take away from me. And so now it's like the future years and beyond that, this life, I don't want to take that with me. So sharing that was very inspiring, for me to really think about and look at. And it's where I am right now. And the thing is using those tools and maybe looking at what I can look forward to. Because I think that's where it hasn't been looking, what do I have to look forward to? And maybe looking at those consequences. Now I can look back at the consequences and say, wow, that has really taken a lot from my life. It needs to stop. And I need to be able to appreciate this life that I have going forward.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent. Amazing, Lisa. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing.
I want to add one point, is that our heart is like a temple where we can worship God. And would you choose to, and all the resentment and hankering and the negative emotions, the past guilt, or the past insult, whatever it could be, and it can be actually be like the garbage that can pollute the temple of my heart. So my choice is, should I keep those and not let God come into my heart, or should I clear those and let God come to my heart, or at least do a little bit of effort so that I can do my part of clearing the major junk and let God do the rest of cleaning himself. But in any case, my heart is sacred, and whatever others give me can be a junk in my heart, and a garbage in my heart, or I can clean them out. The choice is mine, and I cannot control what the world says or does. But and then that really comes through spirituality, that comes through practice of yoga and associating with people who in the like-minded way. Then you get really truly the strength to go. And at that point of time, you're not letting go externally just to maintain friendship or maintain decorum and civility and decency, or afraid of the consequences of speaking out, but truly holistically you will be actually letting go without any piercing pain and negative resentment that can actually be sitting and lingering in the heart for a long time.
Yes.
Questions, comments? Since I go every time over the time, I just wanted to make sure that I was very conscious of the time. More questions, comments, concerns?
Go ahead, Vicky.
I really like how leading up to today's class in the description, there was a note about letting go not from apathy, but from faith, which you just touched upon. And I was also reflecting on the light between the leaves from the description, that when you let go, then this divine guidance is able to show up more clearly in your life. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind touching on that point as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. In fact, you'd be surprised to know that some of the descriptions say that, my heart is a completely an empty place, and I should I should quote unquote invite God to come, and I can beseech his help by then. But what we learn is that God is so merciful, Krishna is so merciful, he's already sitting in your heart. He's already there, birth after birth after birth. He's actually sitting in the heart. So essentially, when we let go from the perspective of faith, then we are slow by slow opening the slits to our own temple of heart, and we are able to let the divine light of God shine through those slits into our being. Otherwise, he says that, look, I've been sitting in your heart since time immemorial, and I've been seeing everything that you're doing. But now that you're approaching me, just like Arjuna approached Krishna, who is God, we can approach also the God who's sitting in our heart by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. And then those that will enable us to open the windows of our own heart, and the light of the Lord can shine through those windows. So thank you for bringing that up. So I'll just recap 30-second nutshell that, we talked about the light through the leaves, on how we let go without, from a deeply sincere place of the heart, not superficially. And that letting go, if based on faith, actually has a higher purpose, that we choose to voluntarily to let go, so that we can enhance, we can become closer, and we can be more happier in our relationship to God. So that is the kind of theme of today's talk. So I am deeply grateful to Jayam and Pavni for allowing me to come, and thank you again for your attention that you gave this evening.
And thank you, Shivas. Thanks for coming back and being those wonderful stories and giving the valuable lessons. It was very engaging as usual, and really looking forward to another session, hopefully soon. And thanks so much. And thanks everyone also for participating and coming to a session today. And if you're okay, we can sign off with a big Haribol.
Yes, and welcome Chitra as well. So you can all unmute your microphones and then raise your arms, and then just with a burst of air, Haribol!